This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
All right. Well, hey, welcome to the War Room today. I am honored to have this specific guest on because we have a lot in common when it comes from the power of sales. So I'm really looking forward to exploring some of those things, plus Jesus, the myriad of other things you got going on. Welcome to the show today. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Jason. And for your audience, my name is Kelly Shaw. I've been in sales for almost 50 years. I know I don't look it. But yeah, and from a guy who probably should never have got into sales because I was horrible. I mean, it was so bad. And I had no business getting into sales, but something kept calling me. And I said, damn it, I'm going to give it a shot. I don't care what anybody says. I was told, you do not belong in sales. Get out, get a real job. Thank God I didn't listen.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I would say I was never like awesome at sales years ago. And I mean, I took that sales journey to 10, 15 years ago. But here's the thing. If you own a business, you should be able to sell somehow, right? I mean, you got to kind of know how to sell your own stuff a little bit too.
Well, hey, Jason, I mean, look, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, I can tell you, if you saw my wife, that I'm a damn good salesperson. There's no reason I should be with that woman.
That's funny.
Sales is in every part of our daily life, whether you're in sales or not. If you just got a job, you getting a promotion is going to rely on some sales skills. Meeting your future spouse or partner is probably going to require some selling skills.
Yeah.
Negotiating on selling a home or buying furniture or whatever. I mean, all day, every day, we are surrounded by having to sell ourselves or our product or our service.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's dig into this a little bit because I'm curious as, where you come from and, did your family grow up? Did you grow up in a family of entrepreneurs yourself or?
Wow, no.
No,
my dad was 30-year Army, Air Corps, Air Force, World War II, Korean War, and the very, very beginning of the Vietnam War. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. We're from a little town in Yorkshire called Doncaster, England. My dad died when I was young. My mother married a Yank when I was 5 years old. And we came to the States. And that in itself is a heck of a story, Jason. I'll have to tell it to you one day. But so I came, stayed on a farm with my grandparents, was traumatized by the banny rooster, traumatized with having to pluck chicken feathers and eat the doggone thing later. It ruined me for chicken for many years. Thank goodness I got over that. But yeah, I went in the Marine Corps after high school. When I was in high school, I was 4'11". I wrestled 101. And I had to drink a can of Hershey every day to get up to my weight just to try to wrestle. And I just grew when I went in the Marines, and I came out, 5'11", 180, a different person, but I had no background in sales. And I was working for my stepfather, a second stepfather, in construction. And I realized I enjoyed it, but man, doing it in the rain in Washington State and doing it in the winter, no, I got to do something that I can have fun. And I just got this idea to go into sales. And I remember I applied at a bunch of places, and this one lady called me back. I thought I had a job, oh, cool. And she goes, I want to talk to you. So I go to meet with her, and she tells me, Kelly, I could never hire you. You do not belong in sales. You didn't shake my hand properly when we met. You didn't look me in the eye, which means either you're intimidated or you're hiding something. Your fingernails look like hell. Thank goodness I get manicures and pedicures now. She went through this litany of things, but she did give me one tip. If you're serious about doing this, go join the Dale Carnegie School.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that day.
Yeah, nice.
And
Nice.
that was a huge game changer for me, because not only did I learn to sell the right way,
Mm-hmm.
I also learned how to become a public speaker. And that, my friend, is what I live for. I love being on stage and
Yeah.
sharing the wealth.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I will tell you though. So backing up a little bit in that story, right? And it's the high performance part, right? And so there's a little connection in there that you skipped over, right? And that's you served your country, you were in the Corps, right?
yes,
So that part of it, right? Whether it's athletes, firefighters, military, whatever the case may be, you see a whole different dynamic of entrepreneur that come from high performance backgrounds, like those different things, right?
right.
And those are drivers, man. They're big drivers, and they're reasons sometimes unbeknownst to ourselves as to what like charges us down that path, right? Because when everybody else is running away from the fire, we're running into it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I talk to a lot of people and they say, oh, I could never be a salesperson. And I go, well, what do you think a salesperson really is? And I ask them, I say, what's your favorite restaurant here in town that when you have friends, where do you send them? They go, oh, I send them over to the Paddle House. It's like a great sports bar. It's got this, it's got great food, the servers. I go, okay. So you sell your friends on going to that place. Do they cut you an affiliate check? They go, no. I mean, when was the last time you got a commission from them? They go, well, I don't get a commission. Oh, but you sell your friends on going there because you know they're going to get served, and it's going to make you feel good to know that they had a great meal and good service, right? They go, yeah. I go, well, what's a movie you've seen lately you told a bunch of friends about? Oh, Barbie.
Jesus.
Oh, cool. And you went and saw Barbie? I said, I went and saw Oppenheimer and Barbie. I had to do the whole Oppenheimer Barbie thing. And man, I really loved Oppenheimer. I've told probably 20 friends, but you know what? I told them I'm going spending the money to see that thing in 70 millimeter, which is like there's only 19 screens in the whole world at 70 millimeter. And I did not get a commission check either, but I sold them. You see, all sales is taking your excitement for something. Maybe it's skiing or snowboarding, giving that excitement to somebody so they have the same excitement as you sold them. In sales, all you got to do is make it fun, make it easy, and let them enjoy the experience.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And I guess one of the major takeaways that I'm not going to sit here and tout that I'm the best salesperson in the world either, but I found, for me at least, sales it's all about just being conversational, right? And
yeah.
and building the relationship, building know, like, and trust, right? And inevitably, if it's a pain point, people are going to sell themselves. I mean, a big portion of the time, right? And I think where a lot of people make mistakes is, they don't do any relationship building at all, right? It's like, here, you need this, I got a solution, here you go, buy it, right? And people they want to buy, they just don't necessarily want to feel like they're being sold, I think.
Sold,
yeah, right. So, for me, that was always a huge lesson that I've always taken away from a lot of sales mentors that I've had over the years too. We're just those little tiny things, and it's not like it's rocket science. It's almost like everyday activity. Right?
Yeah. Well, I had a mentor when I first got into sales. I started working at a little shoe store in Port Angeles, Washington. And there's this old guy working there, and he had his clients rolling on the floor laughing all day long. He was so funny. And we were talking one day, and he goes, "Hey, listen, your body can only have one thought at a time, either good or bad. I'm going to make it good. If the people are laughing and they're having a good time, they're communicating, they're talking, they are also then in a better frame of mind, and it's going to be easier for them to spend the kind of money they're going to need to spend to get the right kind of shoes." And I've taken that philosophy from that was 43 years ago or more. And I make people laugh. It's not like I'm funny looking, maybe, but I got a face for radio, my wife says. But it's easy to get into conversations. People ask me, like, "Okay, what's your number one gift? I go, like, you know what? It's not a gift. It's a trait I learned. I have no gifts. The good Lord did not give me any specific gifts. Maybe a small, slight speech impediment. That's about it. But I don't have any gifts. What I did was I memorized, internalized, and then prioritized the things I wanted to do. And it became so natural to me. I believe we all have scripts, right? In sales, everybody has a script. Some people's scripts suck. They make 40, 50, 60 grand a year. Like, give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
Some
Right?
people have scripts that they're making $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a week. And I've got friends whose scripts are so good, they're making, in some cases, $1 million a month. Now, we all speak English. Some of us better than others. Me, not so much most of the time. But the words are the words. It's the way we organize them that can either lead us closer to the sale or further away. Treading water is getting further away from the sale. If you're not moving closer, you're falling behind. So it's like you've got to be able to come up with a script or a game plan, right? It can change, but you got to know it so well. I'll tell you a story. So I had a mentor in the financial services world. So I got into financial services after I was tired of running retail stores and going in and turning stores around. That was my background. And I went to work for this guy, and he goes, "Oh, I don't want you to be my seminar speaker. I want you to sell annuities with me." I go, "Okay, cool. What's an annuity?" I got literally 15 minutes of training, and he put me out on my own. And I came back. I actually made some sales without knowing what the heck I was doing. But I said, "Paul, I want to go out with you for a week. I just want to mirror and match you, right? I just want to watch you." So I'm home one day practicing my script. On Saturday mornings, I'd make all my phone calls to book my appointments for the next 2 weeks. And my wife came in and goes, "I didn't know you stuttered." I go, "I don't stutter." She goes, "You just did." I go, "No, I didn't." She goes, "You did." I go, "I did not." She goes, "Listen to your tape," because I used to tape myself practicing, right? Which is what a lot of people will not do, because we never like our own voices, right? So I'm listening to the tape, and sure enough, I was stuttering. I went, "Oh, well, that's where Paul always stutters in his presentation."
So
She
you
goes,
picked up on it.
I mean, look, I learned this from Tony Robbins. And I know Tony. Tony's a friend of mine. I love Tony. It's like, if you're going to you want to do something, find somebody you can relate to.
Yeah.
Do what they do. Success leaves crumbs. It leaves a trail. So does failure, by the way. Too many of us are picking up the crumbs of failure, not the crumbs of success.
Yeah, true.
I think I finished that story. But yeah, I mean, I've always believed, like, I helped when I met my wife 5 years ago. She was doing this part-time real estate thing. with this lease with right to purchase program run by a huge national company, right? A real legit program. And I went, oh my God, I've bought 12 houses in my life, lease with right to purchase. I love tying up property and not having to put any money out of my pocket, but I control if I get to buy it when it's right for me and when I get to sell it, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I went through all the stuff. I internalized. I took a bunch of phone calls, but I got a script down that is like unbelievable. Within 2 years, my wife is the #1 agent in the country in real estate for this firm. And they're now owned by Blackstone, the largest private equity firm in the world. And because of our team and how I've trained all the team members, they all have their scripts. They're different than mine, but they're comfortable with them. They're not for a script. It is what they say and do and how they do it that is just a game changer.
Yeah, it's the second nature part, right? That's really what it is. I mean,
and
you
that's
start.
one thing.
Yeah,
Ahead.
you start with a baseline, right? Of I remember some of the very first sales training I went to, it was like, well, you got to have a script, right? And then they'd like, here's a baseline, right? This is not what it's actually going to look like, right? Because you've got to be able to put some freaking personality into the thing too, right? And I tell you what, by the end of 2 weeks, that looked, it wasn't even the same script anymore. It was totally different. But it worked for me really, really well, you know? So there's some key importance to that for sure.
Well, and that's one thing I learned in the Marine Corps is you spend a lot of time practicing before you ever go out into combat, right? And why do we practice so much? So that we internalize when something happens in combat, you know what to do and how to do it. You don't have to think. It's kind of like a Formula One driver. If you're doing 240 miles an hour down a backstretch, right, and you got a hairpin turn coming up, you can't think. If you have to think, you're going to die. You got to react. And when a car loses control in front of you doing 180 miles an hour, and you're only 20 feet away from it, your reaction time has got to be instantaneous. And if you have to think about what I'm going to do, am I going to steer left? Am I going to steer right? Am I going to tap the brake, break loose, go around? Am I going to break it free, spin around this guy? Whatever it is, you got to know and react accordingly. You can't think. And I think that's one thing I definitely got from the Marine Corps is you've got to practice, drill, and rehearse like all the time until it becomes so second nature. Find a mentor with a style of sales you love and just do exactly what they do. Yeah. You'll always tweak it to your personality. But I think I was thinking about coming on this podcast. I watched a documentary maybe 2 weeks ago on food, right? So I'm really into food. And this is all about, the bad crap we eat and all these diets and how they're ridiculous. And I think a lot of salespeople and business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs are on the sales and business coaching diet. There's a new fad out. They want to try this new sales technique. Then there's, and it's kind of like, look, if you've ever done my wife was a bodybuilder for a very short period of time, entered a contest. But when you deal, and you've dealt with, Jason, athletes, NFL athletes, right? Oh yeah, for sure. When they're in season, or even when they're off season, they know exactly what to put in their body, exactly when to put it in their body, and exactly the ingredients to put in their body. So they know the micronutrients and they know their macros, right? Oh no, I've got a little bit too much fat in my protein. I need a little bit less there, and I need a little bit more carbs, and I need a little bit more fat or a little bit less fat. And I got to eat. It's been 3 hours since I ate. I got to eat again. I got to keep my body optimized and fueled. And I think in sales and in coaching, there's a new fad like every day. And I follow a lot of these. I follow all the sales gurus, and yeah, they're all good. But if when you break them all down, they are really doing and saying kind of the exact same thing that the old school sales trainers taught. O.G. Mandino, Dale Carnegie, all those people were Christians, number one. And every one of their books do not ever give you any sales techniques. They talk to you about serving.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I don't think we look, and like what I tell my wife all the time, look, babe, we may not make any money on this, but it's the right thing to do. We got to do it.
Yeah.
We have to do it. We have to serve. If we serve, we'll reap later on. It's kind of like, I had to plant junk on the farm when I was a kid, right? And when you plant like in the early spring, you can't harvest that until the late fall. And there's a whole lot of work that goes on in between.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the reward. And I think
Right.
if we have more of a serving mindset and we know we're doing the right thing, it will come back tenfold somewhere down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
I talk to business owners, and they don't know their KPIs. They don't. Salespeople don't know their real numbers. They have this idea, and it's normally way off. They think they're pretty good. And I say, when I'm training somebody, and I go, look, let's come up with a plan to double your income in the next 12 months. And how am I going to do that? I can't work twice as many hours. I can't see twice as many people. I go, we only have to improve 5 to 7% in anywhere from 7 to 10 different areas.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's one area you might want to work on is getting quality questions. Like, to me, my number one thing that I'm probably known for, dude, I ask a lot of questions. I want to know a lot of stuff, but I'm always on track. That normally my questions are going to lead me exactly where I know I need to go to help them scratch their itch or solve their pain point.
Yeah.
But if I don't ask the right questions, and when somebody will answer and they'll give me an answer and I go, that's interesting. When you say blah, 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 do you mean it this way or that way? Or explain to me exactly what you mean by that. I was doing some training at a car dealership one time. I was going over this whole, feature, advantage, benefit, and blah, blah. So I watched this guy come up, and the salesperson greets him, and he's doing a really good job. He's asking some really good questions. And he goes, sir, what's the most important thing in the next car that you're really, really looking for? And he goes, oh, I want something that's like really safe. And so he starts in this presentation about crumple zones, airbags, and I kind of interceded, and I go, hey, I overheard you guys talking, and I loved your answer. You said safety. Can you paint a picture of what that looks like? And he goes, yeah, my wife's a flight attendant, and she sometimes lands at midnight right after an international flight. And we live down in Orange County, and she's going to be on the freeway. I don't want the car breaking down. And that's safety, right? But it's not the safety the salesperson was thinking.
Yeah, sure.
And so I told the kid, I go, sell your roadside assistance, sell OnStar, sell whatever. I mean, by the way, OnStar is great. My dogs lock my car and my keys in it. Thank goodness I just called OnStar and said, hey, can you unlock my car, please? I accidentally, my dogs.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, this is like, this is really, really, really good. Like, I hope people that are listening are like picking up all these little things here, right? Because, I mean, this is the stuff people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for right here.
I know. Believe me, I know.
So you're giving a pretty damn good education here to a bunch of business owners for sure. And I've always looked at sales, I guess, as an art. I think it's an art form in its own way. And it's no different than anything else in our life, where it applies to everything. I mean, like you said, when we first got started, I don't care what you're doing. You are always selling something. right, in your life. It doesn't matter what it is. It's funny.
Absolutely.
You brought up your wife, you being a hell of a good salesman. The guy that actually taught me how to sell, the only reason he took me under his wing and he goes, you have to be a good sales guy because there's no reason she should be with you.
Oh man.
So he goes, you know what? I'm going to teach you everything I know. I was like, okay.
Nice.
And he did. I worked with him for the next year. And, I had in some of my own companies, because I was running my own sales with inside of my own company too. And we had like $300 or $400 worth of sales that year after the fact. And most of it was me.
Nice.
And, I know there's tons of salespeople that like could blow that out of the water, but that's not really the point. The point is I honed the craft, and I couldn't even tell you now what conversion rates and all that shit was, but I was pretty decent at it. I had honed my own craft down to this was me and my style, right?
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up you brought up art form of sales, because it reminds me, for an old white guy, I'm a damn good dancer, right? And so I can cut a rug on any hip hop dance floor and have all the sisters and brothers going, woo! But you're right, sales and running a business is kind of like dancing. You have a partner, and when you're selling, your partner is your client, the one you're trying to help, right? You're trying to dig deep and try to solve their problems, not superficial, like, I got pain in my left arm. Oh, just go take some aspirin. No, it could be a heart attack. It could be all kinds of stuff, right? It could be a torn rotator. Who knows? We got to ask more questions, and we got to dig deeper, and we got to, experiment. But sales and running a business is like dancing. There's a rhythm to it, and you got to find out what that rhythm is, and then you got to tap into it, right? And it's like I always hear people, and this drives me absolutely freaking crazy, drives me nuts. They go, what's the golden rule? Sell everybody the way you want to be sold. Bullshit. That is the stupidest freaking advice I have ever freaking heard. Do you know how you should sell people? How about the way they want to be sold?
Yeah.
And gals, when we're with somebody, we've got to understand their kind of personality, their flow, their rhythm, and we've got to match that. It's kind of like in the old days, they had these things called radios, I think, in a car, and they had a dial to go back and forth between the station. And if your favorite radio station was 98.7, you could still hear it at 98.6, but it was a little staticky and a little tough, right? And sales is the same way. You got to have that thing dialed in so it's a clear channel of communication, not one notch off. One notch off, you're going to lose sales, huge amounts of sales.
Yeah, totally.
But if I was going to give, I know we talked earlier, if I was going to give somebody one bit of advice, learn your style. I love DISC. I also love another program, but for sales, I love DISC the most because it focuses on two things: pace, either fast paced or slow paced, and task oriented or people oriented, right? So if I can see that somebody's kind of fast paced and people oriented, that's a 99% close for me, like all the time, because I'm fast paced and very people oriented. I just got to remember to ask for the sale, right? Make it easy, make it fun. The slower personality, but still people oriented, I need to slow my ass down. I need to talk about them and the future, what the product's going to produce, who they can come see if they have issues, what's going to happen, what about things like warranties and blah, blah, blah. So those things or guarantees are important to those kinds of people. And I've done an amazing job selling to engineers, which I shouldn't be able to, but I learned one thing. They know more almost about everything that I don't know about. So I'm not going to try to pull the wool over their eyes. I'm going to, though I will know where to tell them to go to find the information that will probably lead them to pick my product or service. And I'll have things highlighted, and this is what Car and Driver said, this is what Road and Track said, this is what Financial Times said about this company, and I will have it highlighted. If you look up the August edition 2021, this is what they said about Allianz Life. I'm not going to say anything like it's the best company, they're this, they're that. It's like, you know what? Don't take my word for it. I'm a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
How about the Financial Times? New York Times, that's what they said.
Right. Yeah.
So I think if people were to really dig down deep and just learn to either speed up or slow down, either focus on the task or focus on the people, I think almost everybody could probably double their sales in 90 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, if you listening to what you're listening to, I'm talking to the audience here, and I mean, you just got $100,000 sales education on this call. So I hope you're like really taking it to heart. And number two, if you really want to be that guy or gal that knocks it out of the park, how do you want people to reach out to you, my friend?
You know, the easiest thing, Jason, is just go to our website. It's called kingdomsalesacademy.com. We have master classes about once a month for a couple $100. They're like a 4-hour class, very inexpensive. They can sign up there. There's also a couple of ebooks I've got available for them to download for free. And there's actually a course called the 21 Silver Bullets. I talk about the vampires that are sucking the lifeblood out of your business. There's 21 of them. We have the silver bullets to kill them. But it's a really good course. It's 23 videos, about half an hour each. So this is about 12 hours of solid content. If somebody were to go through that course, they're going to now know everything they need to know to run a successful business. And they'll probably be able to figure out from that training course the next steps they should take to really take their life to another level. 5 years ago, when I met my wife, I told her, I go, look, I'll help you with the real estate business. I'm going to take you to one of the top agents in the world. She's in the top 1% of all agents internationally now for her broker. There's 90,000 agents. She's in the top 1.5%. So I said, but we have to do it my way, number one. And that is, we're gonna pick our lifestyle. We're gonna pick what we want to do, and we're gonna handle our business remotely. I read Tim Ferriss's book, and ever since then, so like we travel, we're gone 4 months of the year to different countries. We've already been in Portugal and Spain 1 month each this year. We're leaving again next week for Spain for 2 months. We actually just bought a house there on the Mediterranean.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, look, guys, gals, do yourself a dream board. I mean, seriously, I got a really killer story about that dream board, but I did a presentation for a big financial services company one time, and 5 years later, my assistant, who was no longer my assistant, calls me up. She goes, Kelly, remember when you did that big presentation on stage for that life insurance company? I go, yeah, the dream board thing. She goes, yeah, I went home and I did my dream board, but I put it under my bed and forgot about it. And I pulled it out today because I'm moving, and the house that I put on my dream board 5 years ago is the actual house that I'm moving into, which is a mile down the road. She goes, I had no idea I had put the picture of that house on my dream board, but it happened.
Wow.
Stories like that. So I don't think a lot of us, we'll spend hours and weeks planning a vacation, but we don't really plan our life. We don't really plan time with our kids. I've had some really great coaches. One is Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach. And, we always planned like killer vacations. We planned time away from the office, no phone calls, no emails. We had days where we focused on work, and it was like just in the military, we said assholes and elbows just all day long, 12 hours, hard work, 3 days a week. But I walked my kids to school every day. I picked him up every day. We walked home. We'd play I Spy with my little eye. We'd have fun games to play. But I was able to like coach my kids' soccer team. I ran a ski and snowboard program for 25 years on the weekends in the winter. I was able to be there, when they needed me. And the cool thing is, I read a study many years ago about somebody doing all these interviews on deathbeds. It's funny. Nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have made more money. I wish I would have got a better promotion or a better job. You know what they all say? I wish I could have had a better quality time with my family and my loved ones. I wish I could have been there for my kids at those soccer games and at those baseball games and those football games. But I was an absent dad because I was working and I prioritized work over family. You can do both, but man, you got to have a plan.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that, man. I've spent, God, the better part of the last 7 years, organizing, 14 companies that I own and organizing all those things so I can be present with life. Right.
Right.
And nobody's saying it's easy. It isn't freaking easy, but it's achievable. But if you never actually go for it, it's never going to happen. Right.
Correct.
So you got to actually go for it and like get off your ass and do something about it. That's for sure. But anyway, well, hey, I got one last question here that is kind of for all the money in the world, right? The money question. And that is, if you could have invited anybody here today at any given point in time in history, dead or alive, doesn't matter. Who would have you loved to have had here and why?
Wow. You know what? I tell you, probably actually two people, if I can share.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet.
One is Tony Robbins, because if it wasn't for one of his very first firewalk programs I went to in Arlington, Virginia, walking on those hot coals and coming off of those things really taught me about mindset and belief. And he taught me so many things. So I would say Tony, number one. And number two, some people may not like this guy, but you got to love what he's accomplished in the last 10 years. We came from the same background. In fact, my company sold him his very first sales training tapes, and that's Grant Cardone. Grant bought his sales training tapes from my company. We handled all the sales for a guy named Jackie B. Cooper on the West Coast of the United States, and he was in LA. And dealers were calling me saying, "Hey, do you know anything about this Grant Cardone dude?" I know he sold him some tapes. Hey, any sales training is better than no sales training. He seems to know what he's talking about. But 10 years ago, we were in the exact same space, having some difficulty. I had to get back to the basics and selling again and designing my life. And he started designing his life. He just designed a bigger life than me. That's why he's got multiple jets, multiple helicopters, a house on the beach in Florida. He's traveling all over the world on these super yachts. Look, if Grant Cardone can do it, man, that dude doesn't even speak English right. Right? And look at Tony Robbins. Right? Yeah. He's a behemoth with the biggest head you've ever seen in your life. And he was living under a overpass in LA.
Yeah.
And look what he's done. He's changed millions of people's lives. I'd like to have had those two on this show to let them know that they both made a huge impact in my life.
Yeah, that's great. That's to me, that's what it's all about. It's all about impact, right? Everything's about impact. Sales is about impact. Everything that we do in life is to, well, at least my belief is, should be to impact other people. That's that servant leadership, right? I mean, I grew up in it. I grew up in that. I was in the military for 23 years. I understand the servant leadership model. And when
Right.
people say, oh, we shouldn't use those terms, it's like, you know what? Fuck you. Right? Piss off, right?
Yeah, but it paints the picture very succinctly, right?
Absolutely, man.
So
You bet it does.
why pussyfoot around it? Just call it what it is.
Yeah, that's right. But man, this has been a blast, brother. I'm really glad that I got to have you on the show today for sure. And I always like to say, wrapping things up is we all have the same 168. And thanks for taking an hour out of your day to be here and like really just slamming the info down, man. I mean, you left it all on the table for the audience, and I really do think that there was a lot of nuggets, and I hope people caught them.
Yeah, well, Jason, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on a show like this. I love talking sales. I love helping people, get better at their career, get better at their life. And, I would do this anytime. So if you ever want me back, believe me, brother, I'll be there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
All
hey,
right.
thanks again, brother. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.